Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the honor and the pleasure of having Pratik Shah with EsquireTek. Pratik, thank you for being with us today, my friend.
Thank you, Ken, for having me.
Yeah. And so one of the reasons I wanted Pratik on this show is because of AI, and his company, EsquireTek, which we're going to get into, uses AI to make lawyers' jobs reduce from what takes 10 hours in discovery to a 2-hour task, which is what we're all looking for, right? We want to be more efficient, higher ROI, and that's one of the ways that Pratik's company is helping us do that. So thank you for being with us. So tell me a little bit about your background, your story. How'd you get to where tell me how you come up with this whole EsquireTek and, your whole background.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I appreciate that. The whole thing came up because I really hated doing written discovery. Graduated law school. I started the DA's office trying cases. That was a lot of fun. Decided I wanted to try my hand at civil litigation. Started my firm. Did that for about 9 years. And the one thing I hated the most in that 9 to 10 years of doing civil litigation was written discovery. And just like I'm a listener to the podcast for a long time. And, one of the things we always talk about, and you always talk about on here, is like how to make your firm more efficient, how to get more cases, how to become more profitable, right? That's the bottom line. And so in that vein, I would always meet with my staff. I'd always meet with my paralegals and staff, and I'd ask them, hey, we did this much in this quarter. What is slowing you guys down from doing more? How can I help you do more? And the constant answer I got was written discovery, is that is the thing that is slowing us down. If you're a litigation firm, you know how time-consuming written discovery can be. So, long story short, we tried to find a million solutions. I tried to outsource it to a different country. I tried to hire junior lawyers or junior staff and help, and just really wouldn't work the way I wanted to. And I thought to myself that there should be a software that can do a lot of this tedious stuff. And what I mean by the tedious stuff on written discovery is the formatting, getting answers from the client, creating the proof of service, getting signatures, not the formulating of the actual responses, because that's what we got to do as lawyers. And nothing existed out there. And that's when I got introduced to my co-founder, Dr. Slim Sweesey, who's a brilliant engineer, has 60 patents under his name. And him and I started talking about, actually he's in the Georgia Tech Hall of Fame of Engineering. And so, he's a really brilliant guy. And him and I started talking about kind of legal and what areas in law need to be automated. And this discovery thing came up again. And he's like, well, I can build it. Let's build it together. And so, me talking to him from the lawyer side, him talking to me from the engineer side. And we launched this thing at the end of, right at the beginning of December 2020. So right at the tail end of the 2020 year, we launched it to the public, and it's been kind of growing really strong ever since.
Yeah. So tell our listeners, our viewers, what does it actually do? I mean, how does it work? Like, take me through, like, if I got some written discovery from a defense lawyer, what would you do? How would it?
Yeah, great question. It really, one of the things that was our mantra is this thing has to be easy to use. We don't want to have lawyers need to spend 20 hours trying to learn this thing. We want it to be able to go in there and click buttons. And so that we designed it that way. So you log in on the EsquireTek.com, EsquireTek.com. You click sign in. You sign in. There's a button that says upload discovery. Click upload. You drag and drop the discovery that you got from opposing counsel. Our AI scans it and reads it. It'll extract opposing counsel's information so it can put it on the proof of service. It'll extract the case number, case name, county, plaintiff name, defendant name, all that stuff so it can populate it properly onto the responses document. And then it'll go through and it'll extract all the questions. Every piece of discovery has this little preamble. It'll skip the preamble. It'll extract all the questions. It'll put the questions into an easy to read format for the clients. So when you click send questions, there's just another button that says send questions. You can send all the questions, or you can pick and choose which questions you want to send to the client. The client gets a link on their cell phone or in their email. They get both. So depending on what they're comfortable with, they click it, they log in, they can start answering the questions. And what it feels like to a client on the phone is it feels like they're answering a survey. They get one question at a time. They get a little bar at the top that tells them how close they are to completing it. So it makes them want to complete it. The answers start coming back to you, and you can start formulating your responses as an attorney. And big hesitation we get, where I feel you're probably going to go next, is, well, what about the clients that don't want to text, or they're not super tech savvy? This is really easy to use, and the numbers that we have behind it prove it. When we looked at our 2023 numbers on text messages that went back and forth between lawyers and clients, we had just under 1 million text messages going back and forth through our platform.
Oh my God.
So people are using it. The clients are loving it because they get to answer these questions on their lunch break or when they're watching Netflix. They don't have to be on the phone with a staff member, and that's something that benefits the clients.
Okay. And so then it sends it back, and then the lawyer or the paralegal or whatever, or however your process is, you do it and then populate it and send it out.
Exactly. And you can click Create Discovery, and it'll put it all onto a perfectly formatted Word document, or you can click e-serve opposing counsel, and it'll take the full packet and just e-serve them, and it'll track that they open the email, when they got it, that type of stuff.
So, most lawyers, I think, are worried. We talked about this before we started, but a lot of lawyers are worried that this is, worried about AI putting something in it. I mean, I think we all got scared when the lawyer in New York did the brief with ChatGPT, and it populated cases that didn't exist. I think, and then worried about what the state bars are going to do about this stuff. And so there's a lot of worry out there. What do you tell lawyers who are worried about this stuff, that it's going to?
Yeah, I think it's obviously always good to be cautious, especially in the practice of law when we're dealing with our client. Our clients come to us with serious problems. Nobody calls a lawyer because they want to. They come to us with serious problems. We represent them. We have to take care of them and take care of their cases with care. So we should always be cautious, and it's wise to be cautious. But all of the stuff, AI, it's all a tool. It's just like, a computer or a car. A car in the wrong person's hand, or somebody who doesn't know how to drive, it's dangerous, right? We know that. A lot of us do personal injury. We know that, right? It's kind of the same thing. Is you got to know what these tools are for. You got to look and make sure these companies are reputable, that you're going to do business with, that you're going to entrust your client's information to. For example, there's a couple of standards you can look at. For us at EsquireTek, we're fully HIPAA compliant. We get audited by a third-party company. You want companies that have some kind of compliance standard that they follow. They've been around a couple of years. One of the other things is there's always companies that, want to claim we do all this stuff, and they just came out last year. And it's like, well, do you really? Let's wait and see how other people use it, and see how it really works before I actually implement it into my practice. And really what I advise lawyers on, and when I talk to them about AI and technology, is think about your own practice and what it is that you actually want to automate, right? And the way I like to think of it is, we've got, high skill tasks, things that require high skill, like actually going to trial, being a lawyer, that requires high skill. Signing a client can require some skill, because you got to be able to talk to them, right? That's a high skill task. And then there's tasks that are low skill, maybe document formatting, things like that. And then there's tasks that are low skill and take up a lot of time. And that's really the target of what we want to use AI and software for, is tasks within our firm that are low skill and take up a lot of time. And if we can use technology to automate that, now we're cooking with fire. It's the same transition that happened when we all switched from typewriters to computers. Everybody was kind of scared during that transition as well, and wasn't really sure. But the value add that computers added to the practice of having pre-formatted templates and email and internet and all these things, the value add was so good, you couldn't ignore it. And are there people that misuse that information and didn't do it correctly and got in trouble? Absolutely. But the value add is so good. And I think the same thing is happening here with AI and generative AI in particular, is the value add is going to be so good.
So does this thing also do requests for production of documents, or is that just a separate deal?
No, we do that. We have your interrogatories, your request for production documents, and your request for admissions, depending on your jurisdiction, whatever your set of discovery is. And you can request to the client through their phone that they send you photos and files, and the client, if they've got pictures on their phone of the car or their injury or whatever it may be, they can just upload it right from their phone straight into the platform, and it's all organized for you.
Yeah. And so I know lawyers out there are thinking, because we do masterminds at PILMA, and so we talk about this stuff. And one of the big concerns, to be honest with you, is that they're going to get in trouble because of their clients' medical records or client confidentiality being, out in some software that's everybody using, right? You know what I'm saying? More than one law firm. It's not just my law firm. So you have something like, I've heard of the word blockchain or something to where it kind of
Yeah.
protects it, so that nobody else could have access to it.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so that's where Dr. Slim, my co-founder, comes in, and he's brilliant at doing this because he's built hospital software, right? So if you imagine software that's been used by all these hospitals, every patient has to be separated, right? Because they're each information. So kind of using that same security and technology standards, bringing it here. And it's what he called we use AWS as kind of our core basis. And in there, they have security features with these little, what they call S bucket. I don't want to get too technical, but they call them S buckets. So each firm has their own S bucket. And the way we do it is each firm controls their own data. When you log in, you have the ability to archive or completely delete all your case information if you want. And your case information only goes into your S bucket and not anybody else's. And so it stays separated that way. So it doesn't, they don't coexist with each other. And then even on the back end, we have no access to that. Obviously, HIPAA compliance standards. We know, as a lawyer myself, obviously we know the strict requirements of the ethics standards on client confidentiality. I wouldn't look at it any differently. If you've got a reputable company, it's no different than email, right? We all use Microsoft Outlook or Gmail, and so does every other law firm. Theoretically, Google has all this information, or Microsoft has all this information, but they use kind of the same standard of separation, so we don't really worry about it.
Yeah. So I know this is another question, and maybe you can't really answer it. It might depend, but like, what's the cost of this software?
Yeah, great question.
Is it like a monthly subscription, or is it a per user? Every time you use it, you pay, or is it like a monthly subscription?
Yeah, we did it as a monthly subscription. Your base plan for 5 users is $500 a month, and you can just run as much discovery as you want. There's no cap on it. So if you're a busy firm, because what we found is there's a direct correlation between how busy the firm is and how many people are in there. So the firms that are really busy are going to have more people, and
Right.
they're going to need to use more data, right? And so after that, it's $89 a user. So, if you're a 10-person firm, you might be paying like just under $1,000 a month. And what I like to equate it to, what I think is a fair comparison, is that it's probably equivalent to like having a part-time paralegal.
Right.
With the amount of tedious work that gets done, it'd be like having a part-time paralegal. So I think when I talk to lawyers and I interview them of their kind of experience with EsquireTek, consistently what I hear is their staff, their teams can handle 15 to 20% more cases, because now this tedious part is done.
Which is important,
Yeah.
especially the way. So are you still practicing law, Pratik?
Yeah. So I work at a law firm out of California, Panish, Shea, Ravipudi. I'm the Associate Director of Litigation there. My role there, I don't directly work on cases there. My role there is to kind of help make sure the cases are moving efficiently, and then help make sure that referral sources are updated on time, review cases they come in. And then I'm also kind of head of AI at the firm. So as we implement technology, me and my committee, we review technologies, we review software companies that come in and see if it can make our firm more efficient.
So, I was listening. I was at the National Trial Lawyers. I was listening to this lawyer, but he didn't. I wanted to try to catch him, but I couldn't catch him. And he was saying that there's software out there where you can download their answers, the defendant's answers, and then you can put in, and then kind of have a database. Say, I want everywhere where they talk about the word alcohol.
Yeah.
Or everywhere, anytime certain words or phrases are used. Do you know any software that's doing that now?
Yeah. So I would put that software into a category called e-discovery. And e-discovery software is used a lot when you talk about, like your big law, right? Your Latham and Watkins, when Apple's suing Samsung, and they basically replaced doc review, right? So they used to have lawyers in a basement paying them $25 an hour to review and highlight and mark off. Now they just throw it into a software. You can pick the keywords that you want searched, and it'll go through thousands of pages of documents. So, there's a couple of companies out there. There's a company called Disco, DISCO, and they're actually a public company. So they're fully public, which raises the standard that raises their standard of accountability, right? So Disco's out there. Relativity is another big company. there's a ton of e-discovery companies out there that can handle that. We don't handle that, but there's a ton out there.
So you're the head of the law firms. What do you see, like, if you had to, I mean, I know you would pick EsquireTek, of course.
Of
But
course,
like,
well, yeah.
what,
We already
what,
used that, but setting
yeah,
that aside,
yeah, but set that aside. What are 2 or 3 other ones that you would say, if you were a PI firm, you would really take a look at anyway? Might not buy it, but depends on the size of the firm, but you would definitely look at this as helping reduce the cost of running the practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us as a heavy litigation firm, one program I'm looking at right now that I'm really excited about is called Foundation AI. And what they do is documents come into the firm, it can scan all the documents, and we use Litify at the firm for our case management platform. And so what Foundation AI will do is it'll scan all the documents and it'll place it into the right case in Litify. It'll categorize all the documents in the right way, extract information, input information, calendar motions if they come in. It'll take care of a lot of that stuff that, we rely on our staff to do. And that frees up our staff to do a million other things that we need them to do. So Foundation AI is one that I really like. I think that if you're a pre-litigation firm, if you do a lot of pre-lit and that's kind of your focus, you got to look at EvenUp on helping write demand letters. We don't do really any pre-lit at our firm, but my friends that do pre-litigation, they've been speaking highly of EvenUp. What else has been good that we recently looked at? Oh, ClearBrief. ClearBrief was an interesting one. They're competing with Westlaw Edge now. Oh, and how could I not mention CoCounsel by CaseText? So my friend Jacob Heller founded a company 10 years ago called CaseText, which was going to be a Westlaw and a LexisNexis competitor. And in that, he became one of the early adopters of ChatGPT. He was one of 4 companies in the country that had early access to ChatGPT. And they created this program called CoCounsel. And now Thomson Reuters bought them. So now it's under the Thomson Reuters umbrella, which in my opinion, I think is a good thing because it really gives you some recourse. You got this big company that if they do something wrong, you've got some recourse. But what CoCounsel does is amazing. You can upload, let's say, you get 500 pages of policies and procedures, right? Because you've got a premise liability case or a construction injury case or whatever. You get 500 pages of policies and procedures. You upload it. CoCounsel will scan the whole thing in like, a minute. And you can start asking questions. You can say, hey, does it say anywhere in there that people are supposed to wear hard hats? And it'll say, yeah, page, whatever, it's right here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's like, and it'll do an analysis for you. So you can, even if it's not that simple, like, oh, does it say anywhere in, you can ask more complex questions. Hey, I have a case where my client got ran over by a tractor trailer. They were walking in this area. What are the rules for how people are supposed to look before they start driving a tractor trailer? And it'll say, well, here's 8 different pages where they talk about it. So it's really cool. That's probably the most exciting one, in my opinion, is CoCounsel as far as what the things you can do with it. There are questions where I'm analyzing, somebody calls me and says, hey, I want to see if this is a case your firm will take. And let's say it's in Nevada and I'm not as familiar. I'm licensed in Nevada, but I'm not as familiar with the law in Nevada. So I'll ask CoCounsel, hey, I got a case in Nevada. Here's a fact situation. What are the liability rules in Nevada as it pertains to this and that? It'll cite to the case law for me. And I know we're all afraid of AI citing to case law, but because CaseText was originally created as a competitor, Westlaw and LexisNexis, they actually have the case law. So you could just click it and it takes you directly to the case. You don't have to just like rely on it, if that makes sense.
Right. You can actually back check it. Yeah,
exactly.
As I say, fact check it.
Exactly. You can click the link. It takes you to the case. And of course, you can do you can take the case name and throw it into Google, do a quick Google search, make sure it's a legit case.
That's wild.
It really just, again, I think the mantra for a lot of these companies are similar to my mantra, which is we just want to take the things that are taking 10 hours and bring them down to 2 hours.
And we hadn't talked about this before, so I don't know the answer, which is being a lawyer, that's not a good deal, right? You don't ever ask a question you don't know the answer to. Are y'all using anybody, any offshore people to help you in your litigation, like taking them and using the AI plus offshore people?
At the firm, we are not. I did at my old firm when I like I said, I ran my own firm for about 9 to 10 years, and we did have people offshore that we would use to summarize medical records or help get us medical records because we know that's such a time-consuming part. The downside The pro of that is if you can find a good company or good people, it can get done really cheap. And when you go to sleep and you wake up in the morning, the work's done in your inbox, which is really cool when it works. The downside is I've always found that it starts off great, and then 6 months in, it's not as good as it was, and they're not kind of at the same standard that they were at the beginning. We all know as business owners, it's hard to manage people even when they're in the office. It's hard to manage people even when they're remote. So managing people when they're overseas is even harder, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
if you have
I think
one,
you have to. I think you have to really do extra. I got at Pilma, we got 4 people from Pakistan that are doing a lot of our video editing, graphic artists, SEO, web development stuff, technical stuff. And I think the big deal is over communicating and being very precise and holding them accountable. Like we have software now that we can see when they're actually clicking the keyboard. We can we hadn't got as far as going to the face, the camera, but also is we have daily huddles and we just really over communicate. We're having constant contact with them so that they know that we are interested in what they're doing. Not that we're trying to micromanage them. It's just that that we are there. I mean, I always I feel people respect what you inspect.
yeah,
They don't think you're inspecting. If you just give them something, I mean, I think on the lower tasks, you've got to inspect it on a daily routine. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying for lawyers or maybe even paralegals, but because you've got benchmarks or KPIs or things you can use. But I think what overseas, you got to be very specific because sometimes there's a language barrier.
yeah.
And so you got to write it out, make sure they understand it. It's just not, it's a little bit more work on your end, but I think because we changed the way we did it from when we first hired them 6-8 months ago, and I'm seeing better work, and I'm seeing them more enthused with working with us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And those daily huddles help, and then we have a marketing meeting, with Zoom, and we get them involved, because they are with the marketing team. So I think it can work. I think you're right though. It depends on who you get. It's just like any other employee. You can't just grab the first one that pops their head up. I mean, you've got to vet them. And I mean, it was crazy. I was interviewing this guy from the Philippines, and I asked him. I said, I want to know who your last 3 supervisors were, and because I wanted you to set up a meeting so I can talk to them. And he looked at me like, "What?" I said, "Yeah." I said, you said you ended up good terms with all these 3 last companies. I said, I want to talk to him. He said, I don't know if I can do that. I said, if you can't do that, I can't hire you.
Right.
So right there, that, you know what I'm saying? Things like that.
That's right.
That people just, I think lawyers, everybody, but lawyers, I see them, they just want to grab somebody and get them in fill a seat because they're desperate. But I'd rather, somebody wrote a book. I think it was somebody from Atticus wrote a book called Hire Slow and Fire Fast.
Yeah.
You just got to do it that way, because it's harder. I mean, it's ever since COVID, it's just been crazy to get good people.
100% agree. And I think like what you're doing is exactly like people should learn from that. And that's something I learned the hard way, right? Is that you gotta stay on top of them. And not all of them are created equal. They all look great on paper. They all sound great. Not all people are created equal. And so, but you can get them to your standard if you stay on top of them. If you say, here's what I expect, and over communicate, I think is what you were saying. That's so important. And then I think like one of the other things too, for me in hiring vendors and in hiring staff has been about making sure we're all on the same page about expectations. Here's what I expect from you. I want to know what you expect from me. And let's make sure that we're aligned and that there's no confusion so that 3 months down the line, you're not like, well, this isn't what you told me. Let's just agree up front on everything I want from you. And you tell me what you want from me. And let's see if we can match up.
Yeah, I think absolutely. You're exactly right. Yeah, my big deal is, be clear on what their expectations, your expectations, give them the tools to work with and give them feedback, positive or negative, whatever it is, constant feedback. Yeah, I think you're right. I got off on a tangent there.
No, but I think it's true for a lot of things, and it relates totally to software and running the business and all the stuff we're talking about, because with everything, it takes a little bit of time, right? Whether it's managing people, whether it's learning a new technology, whether it's growing your law firm. And I think there's a desire for everybody to want it now. If we can get everybody to slow down, they can get everything they want. They just got to slow down.
You got it. Good deal, man. Well, listen, people want to get up with, want to try out your software or ping you with some questions. How can they get up with your company?
Yeah, absolutely. You can email me directly. It's P Shah, P as in Peter, SHAH at EsquireTek.com. That's Esquire and then TEK.com. Check out the website, EsquireTek.com, EsquireTEK.com. Happy to help anybody. They can find me on Instagram at The Closer ESQ. DM me. Happy to answer any questions. Any way we can help, we're happy to help.
Well, good. Thank you so much. I'm excited about this. I had never really, I knew EsquireTek. I like the name of it. I like the name of who came up with it, but I think it's pretty catchy, pretty sexy. And it sounds reasonable price, and I think it can really help lawyers. So thank you for doing this for us. Okay.
No, thank you, Ken, for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.